Men's mental health is often disregarded, dismissed, or even mocked in today's society. Social media and mainstream media alike promote a strange, natural misandry or hatred of men, as if our struggles aren't real, as if our pain is something to be ridiculed rather than understood. But I want to tell you something right now, little or older brother. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. There's nothing wrong with telling your story. If you're hurting, I don't care how many people tell you that you're long-winded or a burden, I care. Kevin Mayo, the super strong and very mighty life insurance agent, photographer, and bail bondsman, cares deeply. Shoot me a message on any of my social media pages and I will reply. I know what it's like to have people write off my pain, to have my suffering dismissed as being weird or crazy, but you're not crazy and you're not weird. You're a human. Now, I'm no mental health specialist. I can only speak from experience, but as a life insurance agent, let me start off with a harsh reality. If you take your own life within the first 2 years of a life insurance policy, the company will not pay out the full face amount. Instead, they'll return the premiums paid minus any indebtedness plus interest. So if you're thinking about being honorable and leaving behind something for your family, I urge you, please don't take that path. Instead, build up the cash value of your policy and accumulate over a lifetime. Your presence matters way more than a payout ever could. That being said, I really can't tell anybody else's story. I can only tell my own. And while this isn't a play-by-play of my entire life, it's a raw look at the last 5 years. 5 years of pain, loss, trauma, and survival. In 2018, life was good. I had my own place, I had a valid driver's license, a kick-ass car, a thriving photography career that put me at the top of my industry, and a stable job to support me during the slow seasons. I believed in the simplest equation in America. The harder I worked, the better my life would get. And for a while, that held true. In 2019 and 2020, I'd call that my political awakening and my social unraveling. I went all in for Bernie Sanders, pushing hard for his presidency, and I lost so many people over it. Friends, acquaintances, anyone who leaned more moderate disappeared from my life. Looking back, I see Bernie Sanders as a CIA psyop who was designed to get me more engaged in politics and cause unnecessary conflict in my life. Out of spite, once Bernie Sanders dropped out, I supported Trump and I just went ho-hum against the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. And when Joe Biden won by a razor-thin margin in 2020, I felt like the system itself had been set up to disappoint me. This era was complicated. COVID-19, my political awakening, and my loss in the faith of American meritocracy in general. I wrestled with capitalism, communism, and foreign influences, but at the core of it all, I was losing my grip on the world I once understood. This was the beginning of my mind unraveling. I'd call 2021 my breaking point because by then I'd been working at my longtime job at a headlight factory for 5 years. It was the highest paying, easiest job in Northeast Ohio, but something inside me snapped. I started arguing with everyone, supervisors included, and when you argue with the people that push the buttons and pull the levers, just push the buttons and pull the levers. So then, in what felt like another cruel twist, my best friend at work was fired, and I was transferred away from my original line, my original work area. or the team that I had bonded with for years. I was lonely. I was labeled crazy at work, and people avoided me because my best friend had lost his job trying to help me. It wasn't all bad. I fought back. I filed a grievance with the union, and I won the highest payout that they had ever given for 2 months of lost wages. I was vindicated, but I was still alone. I never felt good while I was working the side of Venture. I always felt like, some sort of a pariah. In 2022, my house, the first home that I ever rented on my own, burned down while I was inside of it. I almost died from smoke inhalation. The year prior, I had begun exploring my spiritual path, even dabbling in light occultism. And in the aftermath of that fire, I didn't want to live anymore. I had picked a date to end it all. And yet, I lived. Had I gone through with it in the summer of 2022, I would have missed the additional trauma in life that life had in store for me. Just 3 days after losing my home, my childhood best friend, James Young, aka he's a general, had overdosed and died. I was sitting in a vacant apartment in Bellevue when I got the news. My heart was shattered. And in the chaos, I somehow became a legend. The man who had taken on Venture and won. But on the inside, I was hollow. In 2023, most of my issues were dealing with family, betrayal, and the weight of blood. I'd moved back home with my mother, and that's when I met the greatest antagonist of my adult life, my older brother. My mom and my dad split when I was young, and my brother, who had a different dad, became the stand-in father that I never asked for. He bullied me, he undermined me, and he constantly turned my mother against me. I spent years, money, energy, and emotion trying to make peace with him, but nothing I did was ever enough. It wasn't just him. My mother constantly threatened to put me out over the smallest things. She compared me to ex-convicts, called me a burden. Even if she was just trying to hurt me in the moment, those words cut deep. But I refused to be defined by them. I worked out, I gained muscle, and I transformed from Little Mayo to Big Kev. In 2024, I found new purpose and, a little bit of a familiar struggle. I finally found my calling, life insurance. I won multiple awards, made tens of thousands of dollars almost instantly, and I found fulfillment helping people secure their families' futures. But success didn't erase the struggle. The time between commission checks was long, and the need to find another venture still lingers over me. Through all of this, my driver's license was suspended. I was technically homeless, bouncing between places, relying on my mom, my friends, and my family for rides. And the most familiar voice in my life, my mother, became my biggest critic. She reminds me constantly of how old I am, how I shouldn't be struggling as a man, and my older brother fed into it. Even my sister started keeping my niece and my nephew away from me, claiming that it was because of how I was acting. Everywhere I turned, I was met with the unshakable feeling that I wasn't good enough. But pressing forward, my life isn't perfect. I'm still facing challenges. But I acknowledge how blessed I am, how much I've endured. Pressure creates diamonds, and while I don't have all the answers, I do know this. If you're struggling, you're not alone. So, little or older brother, if you ever need someone to listen, I'm here. Because I know what it's like to scream into the void, hoping anyone will care. and not getting a response. I want to let you know, if you've been looking, I do, and I care. Next, let's touch on the cost of public humiliation, like when the world turns against you. Once again, in society, men's suffering often gets treated as entertainment. Social media thrives on ridicule, and the internet moves at lightning speed to turn someone's lowest moment into a viral spectacle. We've seen it happen time and time again, but two recent incidents stand out as tragic examples of what happens when men are pushed past their breaking points. A man recently took his own life after being exposed online for going through a drive-thru naked from the bottom down in a Hellcat. One of the employees recorded and shared the footage, and from there, the internet did what it does best: mocked, ridiculed, and dehumanized him. The story was spun into jokes, memes, and reactions videos with no regard for what led him to that moment in the first place. People didn't ask if he was suffering from a mental health crisis. They didn't consider whether he was dealing with addiction, psychosis, or emotional distress. And no one stopped to wonder if he needed help. Instead, they turned his pain into clicks, likes, and retweets. And in the end, he was feeling so hopeless, so utterly destroyed that he seen no way forward. This is what men face. One moment of vulnerability, whether it's a mental breakdown, an act of desperation, or simply being in the wrong time at the wrong place, can turn into lifelong shame, or worse, a death sentence. The man killed himself. Then there's rapper Lil Wop, who was recently caught on camera masturbating in a hotel hallway, allegedly. The footage, which was tepid and simple at best, went viral, and the internet once again erupted into laughter. But let's ask the real question. Was this an intentional act of exhibitionism, or was there something deeper going on? Now, I don't know if you guys remember Lil Wop, but I think like in the middle of 2021 or 22, he had posed a bunch of pictures in drag and stuff, like dressed as a woman type shit. And then he since then like deleted and scrubbed all that shit from the internet. And I mean, like, the man got arrested in a Bathing Ape hoodie. I don't put him placing his image very up high, like out of the realm of possibility. Maybe this is one of those humiliation rituals that they talk about. Maybe this is more or less like him just like crashing out on a girl or whatever, and then like just like being like a woman weaponizing 911 against him. Reports suggest that a woman may have misused 911 to set him up for public humiliation. And if that's true, that adds another disturbing layer to the conversation. How easily a man's worst moment can be orchestrated, filmed, and used against him. Imagine being in a compromised state, possibly under the influence or experiencing a mental health episode, and instead of receiving help, you're recorded, you're exposed, and you're made into a punchline. Where's the line between accountability and cruelty? Between justice and exploitation? Both of these stories underscore a larger issue. Men don't get the grace to struggle in private. Women's mental health battles are often met with empathy, GoFundMe pages, and wellness check-ins. Men's breakdowns, on the other hand, become viral memes and cautionary tales. Society tells men to be strong, to keep it together and to never show weakness. But the second they slip, the world pounces on them like vultures. We have to stop pretending that this isn't a crisis. We have to stop treating men's pain as entertainment, because the reality is too many men are out there suffering in silence, knowing that if they had to reach a breaking point, the world will only laugh. This isn't about making excuses or removing accountability. I mean, don't jack off in the hallway. Don't crash out over a bitch. Don't go through a drive-through with your friggin' without friggin' pants. And I mean, I'm just to speak to myself. Don't quit a job before you find a better job. Just get along with your folks. But it's about recognizing the difference between helping someone and humiliating them. It's about asking why these things happen instead of just pointing and laughing. Because if we don't, more men will reach the same tragic conclusion as the man in the Hellcat did. More men will be set up, ridiculed, and discarded like Lil Wop. And more men will suffer alone, believing that their pain is something to be mocked rather than something to be healed.